Hey folks, welcome back to the Western Southerner YouTube channel. Euro-Nymphing or Tightline Nymphing can be a really productive way to fly fish, but figuring out the rod and how to rig your leaders in line can be a little overwhelming or intimidating to begin with. So I'll go through and kind of show you the setup I've been using for the last 10 years and share how I rig my leaders in line. Okay, anybody that's interested in Euro-Nymphing or Tightline Nymphing, I always recommend that they get the book Dynamic Nymphing by George Daniel and read this. This is the Bible, and it will change the way you think about fly fishing. It's unbelievable. So this is a great book. So let's jump in. So this rod is a 10-foot 3-weight rod. If you're fishing in the southeast or Appalachia or the Northeast, a 10-foot 3-weight rod is going to do you fine. You know, if you're looking to do some Euro-Nymphing out west, probably a 4-weight 10-foot rod or even an 11-foot rod would probably be a good idea. Every now and then I'll get into some fish out here out west that are a little too much for this rod, and I really have to be careful. You know, this rod bows quite a bit. I can play the fish out, I adjust my drag, but sometimes it's a little underpowered for big fish out west. This is just a Lamson liquid reel with like a gazillion miles on it. The whole setup's about 10 years old at this point, but I still catch fish on it all the time. Now the real tricky part is learning your leader setup with one of these rods. And what I have is I have a 12-foot long 4 or 5X leader. I have it attached with a nail knot right there. That's how it's attached to this fly line. This fly line is not your typical fly line. It's like a Euro-Nymphing fly line. You can cast it, but you're not going to be whipping this setup out, you know, 20 yards or past it. It's meant to short at a close distance. So this leader is attached with a nail knot to the fly line, the nymphing fly line, and it is 12 feet long. And I've tried a couple different methods, but what I do is I attach a piece of cider line, which is this colored yellow and red, bright colored line. I attach it with a blood knot to the end of the leader. And now this cider line is a 4X line as well, and it's got some stretch in it, right? So it's pretty durable stuff. My cider is, oh wow, it's 44 inches long, so it's a pretty long cider. You know, usually I'll do like maybe 2 feet. So this cider is really, really long. I was fishing in some deep water over the weekend. That's why it's that long. But typically I might do a 2-foot long cider, maybe 3 feet, give or take. The purpose of the cider is so that when you're fishing and your rod's moving through the current, you can see if your line is straight up and down, and you can know if there is any slack in between your fly and the rod tip. Because if there's slack, you can't feel the fish bite. But if there's no slack, you'll feel if a fish even breathes on it, you'll feel it. So at the end of the cider, I have a thing called a tippet ring. And it's just this little small ring there that you tie on the end, and I just tie it on with a fisherman's knot. Then on the end of the tippet ring, that's where you tie your tippet, okay? And this is just 5X fluorocarbon tippet. And I've got my flies, on the end of that. And as far as the flies go, here, I'll show you. But like I said, I was fishing some deep water, so it's probably 4.5 feet of tippet with 2 flies on the end. I got one of these little guys, something heavy, some kind of heavy little rubber leg thing. And then I got one of these little guys, some little basic midge looking thing. And I almost always fish a big heavy fly and then a small one behind it. I can't remember if that's how you're supposed to do it. I think George Daniels kind of gives you details, and maybe you're supposed to have the heavy one in the back, but I catch fish like this, so I just kind of go with it. A lot of times I fish a big heavy mop fly with like a 5/32 tungsten bead on the top of it, and that's usually like the only thing I fish, and I usually catch a ton of fish on just that. But I like these little rubber legs, and this has a heavy bead on it as well, so this is a nice little fly. If I'm fishing like on the Madison River, you know, someplace like that, or where they're really picky, sometimes I'll do 2 small flies, a couple of different variations of this. Sometimes I'll do really, really, you know, small, even smaller flies than that as well. You know, your tasteless squirmy worm works great. Rubber legs works great. Girdle bugs, whatever you want to call it, all those kinds of things work great. And I like to fish a heavy fly. You know, George Daniel, he'll tell you don't have to fish a heavy fly in the book. He's a master, and he can kind of adjust his drift based on the current, but I find it easier to use a heavier fly so that I can just minimize the amount of slack in the line and really create a straight line between my rod tip and my fly, and that way I can really feel the bites when the trout comes up and hits it. So, you know, I used to think of trout as these, you know, delicate, finicky, anxious little fish, and when I started Tightline Nymphing or Euro Nymphing, that totally changed my perception. I mean, I think of trout as like pretty vicious, pretty curious, and aggressive fish at this point. Just because you start doing that nymphing and you just feel them hit over and over and over. And, you know, obviously you don't hook them or catch one every time they hit it. But when you start to feel how many times they're just banging up against that fly, it'll change your whole perspective on the fish. I remember years ago I went out in like an hour and a half one morning. I caught like 35 fish. And you know, this was the springtime in western North Carolina, so the conditions were ideal. But still, who catches that many fish in an hour and a half, right? I mean, I had to be somewhere, and I just went fishing and just hammered them that morning. So it was all on this rod. My buddy Dale sold me this one. He runs a Tuckasegee Fly Shop out of Bryson City, North Carolina. I think they got shops in Silva and Waynesville too. So shout out to them. You know, Dale's a great friend of mine from college, and a heck of a fisherman as well. So, folks, I hope this is helpful. You know, if you want to get into some Euro nymphing or tightline nymphing, you will absolutely catch a lot of fish. It's not, you know, the glorious topwater fishing, but it's a whole lot of fun to catch these fish subsurface. And, you know, on a good day, you'll just be putting them in the net one after another. So take care, everybody. Hit like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video.